Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you'd like. I do apologize for my voice sounding the way it is. It's not your late night quiet storm voice. No, it is my getting over a cold, perhaps allergies, flu. I have no idea. Voice that's going on. Anyway, I wanted to talk about something that's been in the news for perhaps the last couple of weeks. It's really kind of intrigued my interest. So, apparently, and it maybe it's been a month. I don't know. About 300,000. I think the actual number is 318,000 African American women or Black women have been laid off. As to date, October the what is today? October the 20th, 2025. 318,000 Black women have been laid off from their job and are unemployed. Now, when I first saw this and I first heard about it, I thought, okay, people in, various sectors get laid off all the time. It just so happens to be that this demographic is it just so happens that this demographic is coming to light, right? Like it just so happens to be 318,000 Black women. It could have been 318,000 Native Americans, 318,000 Pakistani Americans, or 318,000 Hispanic or Latino Americans. Like it just so happens to be. And so I kind of just brush it off as happenstance because people work at times and people get laid off. I've definitely experienced the latter. And so as I began to think a little bit deeper into it, I thought perhaps this could be intentional. And I want to kind of present it this way. So I'm not sure how many of you all are familiar with Black women being labeled as the least desirable or least desired demographic of women, least likely to get married, and the least desired. Black women are typically labeled as loud, ghetto, aggressive, multiple children by multiple men, uneducated, and just all out. No one wants to deal with a Black woman, and that's why the majority of Black women aren't married and will perhaps never get married. And that's the narrative that's been out, and perhaps statistically statistics will add to that or push to that, or be the backup or the actual physical evidence of said narrative. So I thought a little bit deeper and a little bit harder. 318,000 Black women. If intentional, and this is the perspective that I'll be taking, would make perfect sense. All right, so I know that there was an article published probably within the past 5 years that Black women are the most educated demographic in America per capita, meaning that the majority of, what am I going to say, the majority? Just the most educated demographic in America. If you put Black women against white women, or Black women against Latino women, or Black women against Middle Eastern women, so on and so forth, Black women will reign in terms of being the most educated, having the most degrees, whether that's undergraduate, postgraduate, doctoral, etc. Black women rule in that category. Having said that, and again, you can Google the article. I'll try to remember to post it in the description if my mind does not fail me. I'm getting older and I have so much going on. But if you go off of that, somewhere after Planned Parenthood, after welfare came to light, Black women started gearing towards a life without a man, a life without a male partner, a male counterpart to marry and to bear children and raise children, rear children with. It became, first you can't have a man to get welfare, right? Like you can't then, you couldn't be two-parent. And I think even now, you can't be a two-parent household, can't have a man in the house and get welfare. Okay. And I bring up the Planned Parenthood because Planned Parenthood really targeted black women to abort their babies, especially non-married, uneducated black women to abort their babies. This is why I bring up Planned Parenthood. So you go off of that. You can't have a man in the house until some point to where it becomes, and this is something that I did not grow up. I'm a black woman. This is something that did not grow up hearing in my household, in my family. But as I've gotten older, I realize a lot of black women hear, men ain't shit. I never heard that growing up. My parents separated when I was 11, going into 12. My father, to date, my father, he wasn't with my mother, but always had a relationship, still have a relationship with him, and all of that kind of co-parenting things my parents did. And even though my mother could have gone down that path because, and I'll be a little bit transparent and personal here, she was, the last breakup they had, she was under the impression that they were going to get back together. He was, well, not under the impression, he was telling her that they were going to get back together. And 2 weeks later, after this like deep conversation and reconvening, yeah, we're going to get back together, it's going to work out, he married somebody else. So she definitely could have gone down the path of men ain't shit. I remember seeing my mom cry harder than I probably ever have seen her cry to date. And I watched my mom bury both of her parents. My grandparents loved them to life, even though they're living their eternal life. I watched her bury both of them, but I never saw her cry as hard as when she found out that my father, and actually we all found out. My brother and I have the same father, and my older sister, she has a different dad. My mom was in a previous relationship that didn't work out. I had my sister, my father, probably 9 months into her being a new, single mom, and my father raised my sister up until my parents split up. So my father was my sister's father before he was my father, so almost like 20 years. My parents were together a very long time. Well, she could have very well gone down that path of, men ain't shit. I mean, he broke her heart, right? But I never heard my mother say that. I never heard my mom speak negatively about my father. And even throughout my family, I never heard any of my mother's sisters, even my father's sisters, older cousins, great aunts. And I was that kid that would sit around the table with my great aunties and my great uncles because they just were amazing. I always loved being around older people. I just loved it. And listening to their stories. And even though it was, they would tell me, go play, go be around people your age. I loved being around older people, but I never heard that. Now I could hear stories that I could derive that context from, but I never heard those words. But as I've gotten older, I've heard women, specifically black women, profess that mantra: men ain't shit, or men are dogs, or blase, right? On that tone. So you go from kicking your man out to get welfare. So the government's telling you can't have a man. Then going into the generation, perhaps 70s into late 90s, I don't need a man. And then whatever this 2000 independent, early 2000s, because now I see women are starting to kind of turn around and change their tuna. Probably, let's say 2000 to a good 2000, perhaps 18, 19. Where it was very hyper independent, almost hyper, I would say masculine, but I guess it's just being adult, but very hyper independent. And instead of black women, focusing on their relationships and getting married and cultivating that family unit, it became, I'm going to go get this degree. I'm going to go get this graduate degree. I'm going to get this master's. I'm going to go to law school. I'm going to go to medical school. All these things are great. I'm going to go get my, my MBA, whatever the case may be. I'm going to go get my doctorate in education. It became, well, if I can't have this going from what I don't, can't have a man to don't need a man, almost becoming the man, to hyper-focused on education. Now, you have to look at those different levels, how it plays into the psychological vision of a generation, multi-generations of women, of learning to cope, learning to be without a male counterpart. So you fast forward to probably 2020 to date to 2025. And, of course, you had the trad wife that was really, really trending. But more and more Black women are like, wait a minute, hold on. I've been bamboozled. I've been sold, a lemon. Like I got around the corner and this car quit. This hyper independence thing is not the business. This hyper independent, taking care of everything myself is crazy as hell. And you wonder why Black women suffer health-wise, not just because of the systemic disparities in healthcare, but also a lot of Black women don't even have the time or even the mental fortitude to realize that you need to sit down and rest, like take care of yourself. That's no longer even a concept. And if you realize that's why self-care was being pushed really, really heavily, probably 2021 to 2000, it's just now kind of starting to die down a little bit. Everything was self-care, self-care, self-care. Because they trained up generations of women that took away the desire to have a man love you or to, take care of you, that shelter, that provision, to just hold you at night. Or just hold you when you get home from work and you've had a terrible day. They replaced that with education. They replaced that with go shopping. They replaced that with, girls trip. They replaced it with everything that you did not need. And so now, 318,000 Black women being laid off, unemployed, probably overeducated for the most of them. I can almost guarantee you, probably overeducated. And some people say you can never be overeducated. Yes, you can. Probably overeducated. And I would want to see the demographic of how many of these women are married versus how many women are not. So now having to completely, everything's, stripped away, your job stripped away. And I'm hoping that the majority of these women, all of these women, find a place of employment, find, started that business, whatever, or find love, right? Because this is where we are. And I started to think perhaps this was intentional by, now we've built them up generation after generation after generation of not having a male counterpart, letting you know that, hey, the government will take care of you. Hey, this degree will take care of you. Hey, this job will take care of you. And so you turn your back on your natural desire to be protected by a man. And now everything's been stripped away. It, from that perspective, would seem intentional. Now we build you up. We made Black man hate Black woman. Black woman hate Black man. And now the Black man has been struggling to find his place since, beginning of time. But now, the Black woman, the great divide. So, but perhaps this will backfire on them in the attempt to tear down or break down. They've already broken, but further break down and decimate the Black woman. Perhaps the Black man will come and pick the Black woman up, dust her off of it. They'll get married. They'll have children if they are too old to bear. they'll give that love back into the community. Um, but that's just my own take on it. Is it intentional? 318,000 seems in some way deliberate, but that would mean someone would have to be in some meeting and say, hey, we're going to target 318,000 black women. This is, what is the likelihood of that happening, right? But I just thought I just had an interesting self-talk with myself, like, maybe this is deeper than, I first thought or it first led on. But let me know what you think down in the comments. I'm sorry for posting so late. I mean, or not as frequently as I used to. I do appreciate you all and thank you for subscribing. Have a great day.